So, tell us what this series, is it connected to the wider MCU movies, other TV shows?
You're trying to get me in trouble and have me say hashtag it's all connected. Look, the whole idea with all of our shows is that they all exist in the MCU. It's very clear they do. Yeah. There are elements, obviously, people have seen some of the imagery from it. They haven't seen the show yet, but almost immediately they've said, oh, there's that. It's not an Easter egg. It's a part of what's going on in the larger world. So when you watch a Marvel show, what's important to us isn't as much that whether or not the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are going to come crashing through the door, as it is that we start all of our shows from thinking about a place which is not about superpowers, not about the cape, not about the cowl, but about the people. And so this is the story of two young people, Ty and Tandy, whose lives are so complicated, as it is for a lot of teenagers, when they're trying to figure out what's the next thing that's going to happen to me? What is the world that I'm living in? What's wrong with my parents? Why can't I communicate with other people around me? All those basic ideas. Oh, and then by the way, you're in a Marvel series, so you have superpowers as well. So the superpowers act as the metaphor for the complication of your life, but if you don't have all that other real world stuff in it, then it's just biff bam boom and we're not interested in making biff bam boom. That doesn't mean there's a cool action adventure in it. That makes it Marvel. But by the same token, by telling a story about two young people who are trying to figure out who they are, oh, and by the way, they have abilities. That's really what's important to us.
And to that end, you've kind of grounded the series with a couple of changes, which, like, the parents are very involved in the series, whatever, and the location change as well. Mm-hmm.
Well, we wanted New Orleans because it was a city that really helped define who they were. It's a city that has continually been challenged by the elements, by things that have happened, whether it's Katrina, whether it's an oil rig spill, any of those things. And if you go back and look at the history of New Orleans, it's a city which continually is being reborn. And so the city becomes a character in the show the same way that the Hell's Kitchen stories are important, and New York is important to the Defenders stories, and California is important to the Runaway stories. We wanted to find a place where Cloak and Dagger, where Ty and Tandy could be in stories that were different from everything else, so it wouldn't feel like, oh, this could take place anywhere. It takes place there for a reason.
Yeah. And then, so I've read a lot of the original comics for Cloak and Dagger, and a lot of, especially the earlier issues, about like, oh, let's end the drug trade. It was the 80s and all that. Mm-hmm. Is any of that incorporated into the new show, or is there a new spin on that?
There's certainly commentary on it, but as you pointed out, that was very 80s. And now where we are and where we're looking to go in 2020 is that, you know, what is it that kids are concerned about, and what has social media done that changed their lives, and how aware they are, and whether it is that they're going to Washington in order to talk about Parkland and the tragedy that happened there. It's just a different world than what Bill Mantlo was writing about in the 80s, and so did we change it? Yes. Was it done and still in the same spirit of it? Yes. And these two characters are still the characters that you know and love. They're just now taking place now, and my guess is that if you created Cloak and Dagger last year, that it would feel much more like our television show than it would feel like a comic book in the 1980s. Now, does that mean that there's going to be some diehard fans that go, how could you have changed it? It was so important that it took place in New York and that it involved the drug trade. Watch the show.
Yeah.
And if we get Ty and Tandy right, then that other stuff shouldn't really be important.
Has something replaced the whole drug trade plot? Like what's replaced it as sort of the overthrow?
Watch the show.
Okay.
I've got a question. You are showing it on Freeform versus on ABC. And I know Freeform is geared more to the younger generation, like with Growish. It's a totally different way of talking to the new generation. What was your point for, what was your reasoning for having it on Freeform versus on network television?
Well, a number of things. One, we wanted to be able to have a show that was on cable, but more importantly, that Freeform came to us, asked us for a show that they felt could speak to their audience. We looked through the characters that we were developing, and it was one of those things where rather than just go in with the Marvel encyclopedia of characters, pick one and we'll figure it out, we came to them with a plan, with Joe Pikaski, our showrunner, with this idea that so many of our characters are grown-ups who know what's happening in their lives, and then that life is suddenly overturned by they get powers and abilities, whether that's Matt Murdock or Luke Cage or Phil Coulson. And so this is a story of two young people who are now experiencing that, and it felt most appropriate for it to be on Freeform, and so far it's been a great experience.
Connors is teased to have a big secret. Can you tease anything about
A big secret would be the thing that I would tease. So that's correct.
Any hints about, like, is he somewhat related to anything from the comics?
Again, I think if you watch the show, you'll have a really good understanding. You'll actually have a really good understanding just from the pilot, which we're actually premiering here. Well, we premiered it South by Southwest. We're premiering here. Anyway, enjoy.